So good evening to you. It is 8 o'clock. It's Sunday night and you're watching Let's Kill Twitter. This is the show that aims to detox your timeline with the art of conversation. Well, thankfully, I don't have to do that alone. Comedian and filmmaker Matt Highton is joining me tonight to trawl through Twitter. But before I introduce Matt properly, just a bit of admin. If you're watching us live, well, thank you very much for doing that. You'll be doing that on one of Facebook Live, on Twitch or on YouTube. The record of the show will be available on Facebook Live and on YouTube. So if you know anyone that's missed the show and that would like to see it or catch up with past episodes, etc., please do direct them there and do the liking, subscribing thing, of course. Crucially, when it comes to following us, please do follow us on our Twitter account at LKTZoom. You can see the handle of that liberally splashed across the screen, and obviously the account is share screened right next to me. You can't miss it. You can't miss it. If you do that when we're live, that means you can comment, ask questions, share your favourite tweets with us. The rest of the time, that's where we'll be sharing clips of the show, news of future shows, and generally trying to curate as sort of enticing a selection of tweets as possible. So it's all good. Please do follow us. So without further ado, it's a great pleasure to introduce Matt Highton to you. Matt is a stand-up storyteller, writer and director. His solo shows have been taken around the world, from Edinburgh to Australia. He's also a director, writer and collaborator for the 2018 Chortle Award-winning Weirdos Collective, who Chortle describe as the closest thing we have to a modern-day comic strip. So that's praise indeed for those of you who remember the comic strip. Matt's a co-founder, well, speaking of Chortle, Matt is a co-founder of the Chortle-nominated live improvised comedy show Comedian Cinema Club, which The Guardian described as one of the best audience participation shows. This has now grown to house residencies in London, Brighton and LA, and has its own series of widely regarded podcasts. As a filmmaker, Matt has directed sketches, trailers and several short films, including his debut short film Santageddon, which stars some of the best names in the comedy circuit. This was officially selected for festivals worldwide, including the Leeds International Film Festival and Glasgow Short Film Festival. Current projects that Matt's doing includes writing scripts for Channel 4's MASH'd, and, of course, he does banging tweets, and that's one of the many reasons he's with us tonight. So please welcome Matt Highton. Hello.
Hi. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
I spent a long time honing. Evening, Martin. That's regular viewer of the show, Martin. Thank you very much.
Hi, Martin.
Spent a long time honing your CV, Matt. It's very impressive.
It's really weird to hear it read back to you. It's kind of horrible.
Did you not?
And you know how it is. These things. Also, realise I need to update that very much. Yeah. Oh,
that does
yeah,
tend
it's a
to
weird
be the
one.
way. Yes, I sort of I do sort of job people like, oh yeah, I really must change that. Yeah. But
Was that from my website?
It is from your website. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I know it, because unfortunately I had to write that. Oh God.
Oh, don't be embarrassed.
Horrible.
Don't be embarrassed.
It's that old school working class family. You can't be proud of your achievements. You must feel some element of shame from them.
Well, that's interesting. So I tell you what. I mean, we could go into sort of massive therapy now. This could be a completely different show now. But one of the things I didn't realise, but you're from Saddleworth, aren't you?
Yeah.
It just conjured memories of. I have to confess, I spent a summer or 2 weeks in the summer of 1995 in a van putting up posters for the Lib Dems in the Littleborough and Saddleworth by-election. So as soon as I know it was one of my former lives, and it was also the first. I'm not sure if it's the first election he was involved in, but the shadowy character known as Peter Mandelson, I think, was the election agent.
Oh wow!
Or certainly heavily involved in that campaign.
That is pre me knowing anything about politics. I would have lived there then as well, but my dad probably raging at the TV about it. So.
I'm sure. Well, I've got to say, it's one of those like subcultural or cultural sort of bombs that shows my age, but you know. It's a link, isn't it? It's a segue.
We're all getting older, mate. We're all getting older.
Yeah, well, twice the speed usually during this podcast, actually. So, how are you? How are you?
I'm good. I'm very busy at the moment, which is lovely after a year and a half of just the world being the way it is. So yeah, it's nice to sort of get a bit of a routine going, and things are opening up. Obviously, that's what everyone says now. Things are opening up again. But yeah, it's just nice. Life's all right. Life's all right.
So, how do you feel about that balance between sort of things opening up and things not quite being, we're not out of the woods, but it's not.
Oh yeah, I mean, let's say it what it is. I'm not rushing out to start another tsunami or anything, but it is, it is what it is, isn't it? Hopefully, you got to trust the science, and I'd say follow the advice, but it changes so much. But you know what I mean? Common sense. Use your common sense. Try not to get infected or infect others.
Fair enough. I can't say fairer than that. And have you been involved in any live stuff on stage recently, or are you mainly sort of writing at the moment?
I've been gigging again, which has been very nice. So yeah, sort of the past few weeks, especially getting back out, which is great. But I feel like a hurdler who can't remember how to get over a hurdle. So I'll finish the race. Every time I come to a hurdle, it's like, ugh! It's just not as slick as it used to be. So it's kind of relearning some old gears mainly.
Are you saying that you're not up for you're not going to be selected for the 2024 Olympics? It's basically you're out, yeah.
I mean, it depends what the competition is. For comedy, probably not. For Diet Coke consumed in a year, then maybe.
I mean, you've got table tennis. So you've got table tennis, you've got skateboarding, and what's the other one these days that I think is slightly... Oh, well, there's BMX as well. So, I mean, you just never know, do you?
Yeah, I mean, all those things require some element of balance or spatial awareness. So,
okay.
if it was Mario Tennis, I'd be in.
Oh, okay. Well, watch this space, because I think the Olympics might want to go even more contemporary one day. So there could be social media related sports and all sorts in there, really.
I'm there. That's my time to shine.
It's put, what are they? Esports. Esports is that's what we're after, essentially, isn't it? It could happen. So speaking of that, so it's almost a segue to talking about your life online, which, as far as I'm concerned, I've got a Twitter superstar on the show. I'm very sort of watch your work from afar. We've included it in a couple of shows and certainly put it in the sort of the likes column for things to be discussed. So let's try and just give an overall sense of how you sort of operate on Twitter, Facebook, and all of them, and then we can just sort of concentrate on Twitter.
I mean, Twitter's the only one that I have any steam on. Like, if something's going to work, the rest are unfortunate afterthoughts sometimes. It's weird. Like, if something does really well, then it'll pick up on other platforms quite often. But yeah, otherwise, basically anything gets off the ground, it's from Twitter. But I mean, I tried to do Instagram, but I just don't get there. And I tried to do TikTok because I was on TikTok years ago when I was working at the Beano.
Oh, okay.
But again, I'm such a, because I love film, it not having an option that's really good for 16:9 or any sort of film format. I'm like, no, I don't want to put it into portrait mode. So I get very upset. Leave TikTok for the kids who are doing,
You see, I haven't really bothered with, so we discussed TikToks in previous show, and there was a show that I think Anna Morris and Alex Keeley were on, and we sort of likened it to there's an episode of Buffy where everyone loses their voice, and then she smashes the box at the end, and the voices come out. It's like that's TikTok. So can you not on TikTok actually turn the phone around and get a portrait?
You can, but it's not designed for that, and it shouldn't be designed for that. I mean, TikTok is like, it's got its dark pockets, but it's probably one of the best social medias. I mean, like, as a comedian, you get intensely like, oh, there's so many funny people in the world, and you generally feel like you are running a bit to catch up. But I mean, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. But it just absorbs time. Like, the scroll feed is designed better than any social media to just keep you going.
I do like Pockets of Darkness. There's something there. That is true. I mean, I think social media is one of those things where just you'll get a tweet or a post on another where it's a member of the public, but they've just come up with this doozy of a joke, and you're just thinking, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fascinated. Like, so, like, I really nerd about this stuff. Because I'm obsessed with how things spread. Because sometimes you can see something and you know it's going to be massive straight away. Like, you see someone put something and you just know that it's going to snowball. Whereas other things you see and they're brilliant, but they just don't get any steam. And that in itself is like an absolute art. People who just consistently do good things that go massive
Yeah.
when they don't really like have a massive following, I just think is brilliant. And that's why, again, TikTok is more egalitarian than the others, because I don't know if it's still the same. When it started, certainly, like, anyone, if they made something good, it gets shown to people, compared to the other end of the spectrum, like Instagram and Facebook, where it's now, oh, you want people to see this? Give us some money.
Yeah.
And Twitter's kind of the middle point, which is sort of, for things that are very current, I think.
No, true. Now you've mentioned the kind of viral. Well, let's there's two ways we can go here. We can go both ways actually. Let's talk about let's talk about your tweets, because you obviously have a great deal of success, and I came across a lot of your work through the stock images series,
the classics.
So how many of those have you? Now let's give what we'll do. I mean, we've already given people a flavour of this, so we can have the tweet up on the screen. I think we can do that. Can we do that without breaking any copyright?
I don't know if you could give my YouTube channel a name, it would be a copyright claim, because most of my things have a copyright claim, but most of them are covered under parody or very like lenient people who ever run social media accounts for.
I was just trying to sort of, if I freeze the photo, so it's a photo now. There's no moving images involved. It's a photo. So essentially, if you talk through what you do, because you've obviously done it with the Pokemon intro, but you've done it for Friends. As a huge Friends fan, I love seeing that. So we can talk our way around. We could talk your way around the oeuvre. How did it start? And
it's a weird. So this is one of those projects that I never thought this would be a thing. But so I used to work at the Beano a few years ago, and we used to make content for them. Me and a few other comedians were there: Cassie Atkinson, Johnny Cochrane, Emma Shaw, and we all can sort of do. We all come from live backgrounds, but we also know sort of video and editing and stuff. So we used to use this stock site, which has some of the most horrific video on that you'll ever see, and it's hilarious. But it feels like it's infinite. There's so much. Like, whenever you need something, you put in a broad term and something's there. So for years, I just sort of got used to seeing stock and using it for joke stuff. And then during the pandemic, during the May of the 2020, just didn't have anything on. My wife was working very hard, but I was just going through one of those phases where, live shut down and didn't have any work for a few weeks. And we were watching something, and instantly after, NCIS came on the TV, and the intro just looked like completely no actors or anything, just like it was stock footage. I joked to my wife, Kate, I was like, I could probably make that out of stock footage. And I thought, that's really funny. There's something there. So I thought, could I do it? And as I was thinking about it, I was on Twitter and someone tweeted about the OC, and it was the OC intro. And I was like, You know what? I've got a day. I may as well be productive. I'll see if I can recreate it in stock footage. So that was it. It was more of just a challenge to see if I could do it. So the first one took about 14 hours. Just painfully going through it shot by shot, and then trying to match it. And then it did all right. It did great. And John Luke Roberts, who is a very good comedian, he just said, "Oh, you should do this with Buffy." And so I was like, "Yeah, why not?" Yeah. So a few days later, I did exactly the same for Buffy, and then that took off.
That was a Buffy one.
And again, I know exactly how it took off. It was Chris Hewitt, who's from Empire, somehow got hold of it, and he shared it, and then that got to Joss Whedon, and that shit, and then that's what it went. And it was my wife's birthday as well, and my phone was going, and like I thought I'd turn notifications off, but it's just going mad. So I was like, oh yeah, that's took off. And then because it's taken off, I was like, well, people seem to like this. I'll try others. And then they just sort of snowball from there. Some do good, some don't. Yeah.
But so Buffy. Gosh, I've forgotten about Buffy. It's weird that it's not that long ago, and yet it seems that long ago.
Oh yeah, it feels forever ago.
God,
but yeah, I mean the fun is like it became like I got it down to an art. Like I can do them in about 6 hours now. It's pretty much about the average time. Some quicker.
Yeah.
But it's like the picture you got up. It's finding the shape or the movement. That's all you have to do, and then if there's something funny that fits that model, then but they don't.
Go on.
They don't work on their own, weirdly. But a quiz company bought the stock only videos off me at Christmas. It was great. So there's a company that now uses them as a quiz. So they see if people can guess them, which I thought that's.
Are you going to become a Christmas smash hit game?
I don't know. It's a weird one. It was so odd though, like because again, you've done comedy for years, and you do things like Edinburgh and festivals and stuff, and you're all vying for publicity and get some momentum. You do something like this, and suddenly you got more press than you've ever had on anything.
Yeah.
Like, which is again is indicative of the internet. Like people love content. They love it. Like they love easy, quick, digestible stuff. This is quite nostalgic. So like people just like it.
I mean, you picked out some great shows as well. I mean, the OC. I mean, I love the OC. I love Buffy and Friends, like two of my all-time favourite shows as well. And so tapping on those sort of zeitgeisty shows is fantastic. And if people want to go back and look at these, I mean, obviously they can follow you on Twitter, which they should do, which is at Matt Highton. You're all scrolling across the screen. We've got a little ticker going on. Is your YouTube channel? Can that house this?
They do have them. Yeah, YouTube. I've got basically anything that I think's done all right or that I quite like. I put on YouTube mainly to just store it there. Like YouTube doesn't really do anything, but again, like when something goes big on Twitter, generally that does then sort of spill out because quite often people go to your YouTube to find it and embed it and share it and stuff. So it does do like well, but most things it's probably the easiest way to find videos, but not everything's on there. Some of the quick stuff I just stays on Twitter and dies on Twitter, basically.
Okay. Now you mentioned, well, obviously we're talking about stuff that's going viral, and you pointed out something which I'd never really looked at on Twitter, which is the viral section. Now, do I need the link that you sent, or can I just find that easily?
If you click that link, it should update with the latest ones. So
can I not actually find it through?
You can. So if you go into the search and put in viral tweets. This is where it gets fun. If you put in viral tweets into the search bar, you'll get actually some good tweets. Right. But if you go into the trend, that's where the horror is. Like,
so if I put viral tweets up here, then.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
And then.
There we go.
So if you go into the related topics, usually there's a.
Oh, is that back one?
Because these are the good ones. Like these are the actual ones, but there's usually a little like actual subjects, which is are you on your phone? I don't know if it comes up on your phone, but if you click that link that I sent you, it'll take you to
we can.
It's just taking you back. It's taking you straight back to where we were as well.
Oh god! After all that, I was definitely trying not to do that. So anyway, what do I go? Where do I go from here? So I've never.
So if you just scroll down,
yeah.
If you just scroll down, they will like. Some of these will be generally good, and they'll show you the good ones. But where is it? Keep going down.
Recommended topics. Okay.
Yeah. These are like the ones that are, they get into like the proper. What's it called? What's it called? Like they go into people's actual feeds. These are usually funny ones. I'll get it up on my computer and I'll just read them out to you.
Okay.
Because it's a weird one, but when you put in viral tweets, I'll show you the good ones. It's the weird ones that I don't understand. There we go. So like if you go in there on your desktop, there's usually they'll push them into your feed, And you'll get stuff like, here we go. There's one. If I decline your call and continue texting you like it never happened, 70,000 likes.
Wow. Okay.
Stuff like that. Let's find another one. You become very dangerous when you realize that you can do it alone. Stuff like that goes massive. I'm starting to believe that fire signs' love language is roasting you. They love doing that so much, crying face. 15,000 likes.
Oh my god. Okay. I have to say, there's something about a lot of these tweets there is something. The tone of them is slightly sinister in some cases.
I think it's partly how I read them.
Oh yeah, but I'm just looking at the ones on screen. I've got stereo here. I've got you reading me and me looking at. I mean, obviously not all of them, but it's weird. Again, I'm going to show my age here. Although it's something I studied. I did French at university, and there's a film. There's John Cocteau's film Orpheus. Don't know if you've ever come across it. It's like 1950 or something. It's ancient.
It rings a bell because I love films. I'm trying to.
Yeah, it's a very what's the lead actress? I think is it Maria Cazares or whatever. But it's a really good arty. I can't remember what the movement. Sort of Cocteau sort of
Art Nouveau.
No, sort of. I forgot what Cocteau sort of symbolises as a movement, but it's very kind of. I mean, he was a mate of Dali and all the rest of it. There is a sort of surreal quality to his work.
Hang on, is this a film about Orpheus?
Yes, it's absolutely about Orpheus. Yeah, and there's a scene in it where he's in the car and he turns on the radio, and all of these kind of one-liners, but just sort of come out, but they're very sort of obscure, sort of kind of morsels of information or advice and all the rest of it. And he's writing them down as if it's like, wow, this is fantastic poetry, And it just sort of reminds me of Twitter, and I think the viral section, which we finally found, has got that quality. But there's it's weird, isn't it? How deep? I don't tend to sort of. I feel like I'm digging deep in Twitter to some extent, but there's always something, isn't there, that you.
But there's whole sections you'll never see, like whole sections of subcommunity. Again, this is why I love the internet, though. Like for all the abuse that's on Twitter, like it's an amazing gift to humankind. Stuff like this, it's just used really badly by society. But like, it's weird because there's a place for everything, and. Like the viral tweets are just fascinating because, again, I don't know how some of those take off. Like the one that you've got up now, the BBC one.
Yeah.
You understand that.
Yeah, totally.
It's current. Yeah. It's, everyone was talking about that. And that's the one that sort of stuck to the top of the pile. But like those ones where someone's got, say, 500-600 followers and they've gone, hey, tomorrow morning, I'm going to live my cat life. And then it's like 100,000 likes. And you're like, I don't know what started that snowball. Like how that appeared in people's feeds and it snowballed. It's great they did for that person. But it's also like, there's something about it, which is, it's kind of like, you remember the old, what are they called? Where you have like a quote and they used to put them up in offices.
Like the calendar.
Inspirational quotes.
Yeah, totally.
Kind of like the viral tweet section is kind of like that.
That is exactly the sort of, that's the whole Orpheus thing. It's like that, basically. It's like what I call postcard philosophy or postcard psychology. You'd see those quotes on calendars or whatever it might be. Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, the thing that I wonder about it, because most of the time I see them and I go, that is absolute toss. Like, what is it about that is like, you see, I mean, that's brilliant. Yeah. Never been more scared of a dog. That's funny. That's great. That deserves. That is terrifying as well. That is really. Is that real?
I mean, do you know what? That is a bit mental, isn't it? I mean, I thought that was some kind of.
It looks like a puppet.
Yeah, totally. All right, that is far more brilliant than I would have given it credit for.
But But again, that is like, again, no one should analyze things this deep. But that is just like a second of someone's life. They've laughed and they put that up, and everyone's gone, "Oh yeah, that's horrible," and they've shared it. But this is the thing, like things get shared because of just the right cocktail of circumstances. And again, this is why I love the internet. It's like there's things that go massive, like, huge, and they don't come from a big account. They don't come from like anyone who's maybe doing this all the time, which, you know, once you sort of start getting a following, that'll happen. But there's things where someone's just seen something, it's exactly what they wanted to see at that second. Had that been posted even like 2 minutes, 3 minutes later, then people wouldn't ever see it. They wouldn't ever see it. So it's just like there's so much about the internet that it's just complete circumstance and chance.
I loved. I mean, actually, so Martin's just tweeted that it looks like something from Crap Taxidermy, which is true.
Oh yeah.
But I do think there we go. We had a discussion a few shows ago about the people who sort of do the doozies, but they don't necessarily get the followers. So I think,
well, that's the other side of it. Yeah.
Is that because people think, okay, this guy has lucked out on this one, but they're not necessarily going to deliver the next doozy?
Well, it's weird. So there's a science to it, definitely, and like I've definitely got better at utilizing the internet to try and get people to stay with me. And some people just get it because they are consistently good. Like a lot of people, again, Instagram and TikTok more so, people like seeing consistency from someone. So they like knowing what that person's format is and what they do. A great example, you probably talked about it before, but Eleanor Morton's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant. She's always been brilliant. She's always been funny. But like some of her videos, especially her tour guide character, did well. And that just brought a lot of people to her. And now she probably has sort of a lot of people who just love knowing that there's more of those coming, and then they find out more about it from it. I think consistency is definitely key. Alistair Beckett-King's another great example. Someone who's just consistently brilliant with video. Rosie Holt, another one.
Yeah.
Sean Burke's another one. Like people who have a sort of, I know what this person does, quite often will get a following for people who want that. But sometimes you've got something that does well, and it just people just will follow you. Other times you have things that do well, and you'll get no followers off it. And I don't think there's a sort of science to it. It's whether what you do causes them to click onto you and then decide or not. Because some things you just see, like imagine that one. Some people just see it and they share it and they don't think about who did it or what. Because it's funny.
Yeah,
share
right,
it.
Yeah.
It's gone. Yeah.
But I think I think that's really important distinction that you make, because it's just like if you're talking about Rosie and Alistair, you're talking about an engagement with a sort of it's filmed footage. It's almost like it's obviously character comedy to some extent. So there's more effort in that content than this picture of dog, although we don't know exactly how much effort's gone into that. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean they've been training this dog for months for this shot.
And that's trampoline.
But that's the other thing. Quick content often does better than planned content, and there's reasons for that. Like, so I had something go quite big a week or two ago, which was a Michael Gove thing. I just put Michael Gove when he was caught in the club. I just edited it into train spotting. Yeah, but I was on holiday. I was with my wife. I saw it. She'd gone to bed to read, and I was like, you know what? That'll take me. It took me about 3 minutes.
Really?
Clipped train spotting, clipped that. Didn't really put any effort in, just boom, 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 trimmed it in and put it up. And within seconds, I knew that was going to go big.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, ding, 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 ding. But that's also because you're talking about something that was trending. So sometimes you catch a topic and basically if you do, this is really sad that I know this, but again, it's something from working in content, people talk about this. You have a sort of thing where the algorithm will push you for a short amount of time. So say you're on a trending topic. So say Michael Gove in the thing, as long as you use the right words that are going to, push you into that algorithm. So say it's Michael Gove Club is the thing that's trending on Twitter. As long as that's in your tweet somewhere, then push onto that hashtag. If you catch maybe 10 to 20 likes quite quickly, you'll hover near the top of that. Once you hit about 50, it'll push up to the top for an hour or so. Once you hit beyond that and you sort of get into the sort of hundreds and thousands, stays until that hashtag dies within where most people, if they click onto that trend, will see it. And that's what perpetuates it sometimes, whereas sometimes it's just the right people share it. And again, it catches that algorithm. But like Twitter is all algorithm, like more than any other. It's just, like I say, it's just luck. So trending topics, you got more of a chance.
All algorithm, all of the time.
Yeah. 24/7 algorithm. Yeah. So yeah, and like I think like, and again, like it feels weird talking so deeply about something that is essentially, you know.
I think that's fascinating. I think it's great. I think it's just what people that are watching the show like, getting that extra sort of dimension and going a little bit deeper. And it is really interesting to hear that thing. But I mean, very quickly on Rob and Roll before we get to your selection, it's if you think pre-Twitter, pre-social media, pre-internet, whatever, there were people going about their day and they would see crazy things and they would, you know, they wouldn't necessarily be quick enough to take a photo of it, obviously. And, you know, they'd have to describe it to people and say, look, you wouldn't believe this dog, you know, looked like something out of...
Someone did a brilliant tweet, and I wish I knew it was, and I wish I could remember exactly how it was worded. But they basically summarised this with, 50 years ago, if you wanted to see a dog wearing a hat, you'd have to go out of your house, get in either a car or on public transport or on a bike, go to your nearest library and hope you could find somewhere in a book a picture of a dog in a hat. Whereas now you can get it in 3 seconds. And that's it. It's weird because like this culture is new. Like there's been pictures of dogs playing pool and stuff, like images have always existed. But you can pretty much imagine something and almost guarantee someone has made that in some form on the internet, which is why meme culture is so the way it is and how that all sort of takes off. Because I think we all wish we were individuals, but essentially we all dig into the same culture and we dig into the same images. And so essentially you have this sphere of things that when you think of something, the likelihood is something like it or near it exists. Which is exactly what I do with the stock footage stuff. Like, you can always find something that fits a mold. And now everything, all our thoughts, all our images, all our videos, you know, we're addicted to spewing them onto the internet. And so it's there now, forever. It just exists.
So listen, on that note, let's dive into your tweets. And actually, by doing that, we've kind of go bang up to date with the petrol crisis. We're going to get ourselves into something topical. I just picked out. I don't think we're going to get through to all of these tweets necessarily, but they're all in the likes column. So let's start. Well, listen, if we start with Matt Hancock and it's saying, I don't think we're going to have copyright problems playing his video, are we?
Oh, there we are.
So let's.
It's just great.
Let's do this. So if you read it out for our listeners, because we'll do a podcast version as well, and then I'll play the video, and then we can have a chat about it.
Okay. So, great be out and about in Haverhill yesterday, chat to people on the high street, and see the brilliant new splash park funded by the council. Here's a video.
And here we go.
It's been good to see you. You've done very well. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we've got through it, haven't we? You know, and now coming out the other side. There we go, fist bump. How are you doing?
Not too bad.
How's business? Is it okay? More on the high street, and then there's more on Queen Street.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to sort them out. Got to get people in.
I'm a big fan.
Oh, that's kind of you to
Always.
say.
No,
yeah.
not at all. You
Yeah.
deserve it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, infection control.
Oh, do you?
I do.
Oh my God, you're fantastic.
It's a variety, but hopefully we'll be back on track.
Yeah.
We'll keep positive.
Yeah. Keep positive.
That's the main thing.
Good stuff. Nice to meet you. Take care.
I'm all right. It's nice to be out and about.
Yes.
You take it for granted, and then something like COVID comes along.
been good to see
Oh,
you.
not twice, not twice. Once is enough. Once is enough. Let me just check quickly. He's MP for. Where is he?
I assume Haverhill.
Well, Haverhill, I think it is.
Oh, is that how you pronounce it?
Although West Suffolk, yeah, I don't know. I'm not.
Look at my ignorance. Haverhill.
I could be wrong. I think there's a Haverhill down, sort of more. Like, I'm confused.
Haverhill sounds more Hancocky, actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not. I've brushed up on my Suffolk enough, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Where do you want to start, Matt?
Well, I mean, the reason I saw this, which, you know, if you went on the internet today, you were almost bound to see this. But I saw this because Alan Partridge was trending.
Yeah.
So that's how I found it. And then, yeah, it is the most Partridge video ever. But I mean, it's just, so much is going on in it. Great Be Out and About. What an opener on it. The awkwardness of it is incredible. Like, was he supposed to be out and about? Did he just say? Because obviously we know what he's been through lately. Was he like, I need to get myself back out there, show people that I'm not fazed by all the stuff that's happened, and just show them I'm a people person by showing exactly how not a people person he is. It's really weird because, you know, I have very little empathy for Tory MPs, but there's something so tragic about Hancock. You're generally like, are you like, is he aware how this is going to be perceived? Has he done that brilliant thing that, you know, advertising does? You've got to be either absolutely incredible or absolutely awful, and he's gone for the awful end. Like, I mean, it's just beautiful.
I mean, look, I don't know if he still has his own app, but obviously this is he did have his own app once, so he's got no shame in that respect. But I mean, it's a weird video because it's sort of like, it's like ends of conversations, isn't it? Really, it's just like the final kind of denouement.
Yeah.
It's basically people just saying, "Oh, good to see you up and about." But I mean, the fact he says, "I'm coming out the other side," is a bit unfortunate.
I mean, that
again, that on CCTV.
It's so Partridgey. Like,
yeah,
you feel like, yeah, he's and again, like I do wonder about like people like Hancock, who are obviously very sort of prominent in the Tory party during one of the most unstable, insane periods of certainly my life and in modern politics. You wonder if it is because they do get a degree of celebrity that when they are pushed to a backbench or when they do go through scandal, you do wonder if like there is that sort of like, I need to maintain that level of celebrity, but now they have to generate this sort of stuff on their own, because he's not going to get pushed onto the sort of front of politics anymore. They're going to keep him in the backbench. So his only way of doing something is to put himself out there, and then you get an absolute gem like this of someone who clearly understands social media on some level, but completely misunderstands it on another. Like, it's some of the worst video work you've ever seen. Like, they got clearly like the first royalty-free soundtrack option that came up when they put sort of like video music into God knows what. They got the awkward cuts. He's clearly mic'd up, so there is some level of like production going on. Otherwise, you wouldn't catch those gems. But also, like, he's chosen. He's given a thumbs up to what goes in this video. So how aware is he about what's going to happen when he puts that out? And how much is that just him going, this is a great video? So I am skeptical of how engineered it is. But at the same time, it's brilliant.
I mean, he literally he wants people to know I'm still standing. And actually, had he done a video miming to the Elton John song, it might have been better. I don't know. That's the message he wants to convey. Oh well, I mean,
but again, it's pure internet. Like, people love sharing awful things. Like, they love it. They absolutely love it. And like, yeah, this is there is that danger with all this. Like, people always, whenever I do something like involving Tories and it does well, or like a right-wing opinion, because obviously I'm left-leaning, there is a danger that people always worry about, that by making fun and making light, it takes away from the fact that, oh, these people are destroying the country in the background. Like, there is that worry that when you I can't say the word,
Infanticide.
Thank you. Struggle with words. For someone who's supposed to make
Infantilize,
career
sorry.
words,
Yeah.
oh man, yeah,
Yeah.
there is a danger like that sort of thing just becomes good PR for them, which again he's probably aware of when he puts this out. But what a video! What video we'll forget in 2 days? Great.
Well, and until something else comes along, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Right, so let's have a look. Where should we go from there? Well, obviously we've got fuel crisis, etc., etc. So let's go to Jim Felton's tweet then. Yeah, okay.
James Felton is just one of the reasons I stay on Twitter. Like, he's so good. There's some people who are just so good at Twitter, and like, he is just brilliant.
Yeah, he's very consistent.
Because obviously he's the writer, he knows the media inside out, but he's one of those people who he takes what you want to say and says it. Like what I would say in like 50 tweets, rambling and misspelt with bad grammar. He's just boom, like just straight to the point. Like, there's times when something happens in the news and I'll just see what he says about it, just because I know it's gonna get a cut to the point straight away.
So here, so I'll just read it out for the podcast version. So 2020, we're leveling up. 2021, we're going to try our best not to have gas and food. The typo is actually thrown me. So try that one again. 2020, we're leveling up. 2021, we're going to try our best to have gas and food. Yeah, I mean it's Mad Max stuff a little bit at the moment, I think.
Oh yeah,
petrol stations.
I was on a night bus last night. I just came back late from a gig, and we hit traffic. It's like 2 a.m. I was like, why are we stopped for this long? And when we finally got to the problem, it was people queuing to get into the petrol station.
Yeah, there's been queues. I mean, I'm not far from the Old Kent Road, and there was a footage of queues last night forming, and
yeah.
I just sort of wonder. I just sort of pity the poor driver that's finally got off the M25 straight into a petrol queue. But you know,
it's just mad as well. Like, because we know this is going to happen. Like, all the sorry, my wife's watching something. I just heard screaming in the background. if on the podcast you get it, my wife's watching something.
Yeah, I didn't hear the screaming.
And for a second, I was like, "Oh, something horrible's happened." It's not. But yeah, I mean, like with stuff like the petrol crisis, it's incredible to. I always think sometimes when something happens, again, and this is why things trend, because we all like having our take on what's in the news and stuff like that. But I do feel like sometimes it's a digital version of The Simpsons. Like when a riot starts, they always have those bits where they cut into the crowd, and there's always like 1 or 2 little gags they throw in before it goes crazy. And I love watching that online, even though it's horrific half the time. But I love watching people's reaction, knowing how people are going to react to something. And this was one of them. As soon as they said, "We've got enough petrol," as soon as they said that, can't remember which MP it was, but as soon as they said that, everyone was going to rush out and try and get petrol.
Well,
yeah.
It's a bit like a weird game of Simon Says or something like that, in the sense that, you know, obviously all their messaging is being very much like, hey, we're not going to go into another lockdown, or for example, or hey, you know, this isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And then just thinking, okay, clearly all bets are off then. Well, I'll just take that as all bets are off.
I mean, what's beautiful about humanity is awful. One of the things that's horrible about them. I always think about my dad. He used to get really bad road rage. And his road rage was always because other people on the road. So I think people always get angry because they're doing what everyone else is doing. Like, and that's humanity. We all think everyone else is wrong, but I'm okay. And that's how these things happen. Like, everyone shouldn't panic by this, but I'll just make sure I'm covered as well. Yeah, like, it's that sort of mentality. So just sort of going, let's just relax. Let's not change what we're doing. It's gonna be fine. Like, as soon as that hits the sort of zeitgeist and hits the public conscious, you're instantly going to get the one thing you're trying to prevent. Like, it's unavoidable.
I think we'd had this period of time without a good old panic buy. Actually, I'm just going to quickly show Simon Evans's tweet. He basically repurposed the yeah, exactly. So we've done toilet rolls. It's time for petrol. I mean, it's not the first time petrol's had a shout by any means, but yeah, there you go. I always think that looks like what's the guy in the middle always reminds me of young Alan Cochrane, bizarrely.
Oh yeah,
but
I can
anyway,
see that.
I
can see that.
Slightly random sort of thing. Now we're still on. And I like James Miranda writes panic buying is overseas now. Is it? Yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh, sorry. Panic buying overseas workers now. Is it? My syntax is gone. What's going on?
Honestly, it's Sunday. You're not supposed to be in charge of your words by this point.
You mentioned the poke as well. I don't know if there was any particular.
Again, the poke are just very good at finding the best of something and putting them in a Just I love the poke. Again, great account, parody Boris Johnson. But yeah, they always, when something goes big, they're always very good at giving you about 20 of the best.
Yeah, no, that's very good. There's you can knock yourself out there. They've used the same. I used the "Don't Panic" gif. Of course, someone was going to use that at some point. So let's sort of change gear. I think we've done petrol now, haven't we? Yeah, we have. Oh gosh, which one should we do next, Matt?
Well, I mean that's a quick one.
It is a quick one, isn't it? It's a good one.
I love this. Again, everything I love about the internet. I can absolutely analyze this to the nth degree, but the tweet is, my dad made a, in quotations, meme and asked me to spread it as far as I can go. Oh, sorry. I can't speak now. My dad made a meme and asked me to spread it as far as I can, so here you go. And it's just Harrison Ford as Deckard in Blade Runner, and then the catchpa box where you have to tick, I'm not a robot.
Perfect.
And he's looking confused at the screen. And it's just that perfect little joke. And obviously it's gone massive. That's why I'm sharing it. But I love this because it's a good meme. It's a good meme.
Yeah.
But that's gone massive because someone's dad has sent it to them and they've just done what they've asked and shared it. Now, this is what I love about this. And I've read through some of these replies who think it's the perfect cross-section of the internet. Unfortunately for this woman, Morgan Danielle, they obviously put this up and it went big. And as soon as it went big, people became cynical of it. And they've had to put in the replies a screenshot of their WhatsApp conversation where their dad has sent it to them because people mistrust that this is a thing that their dad's done. And this is like the polar sides of the internet. If you want to get nerdy, as soon as you have an agenda in anything you do, especially in comedy, you're less likely for it to do well. So as soon as you have an agenda and it looks clear, unless it gets you an instant laugh, it's not going to do as well. So it's why babies and animals are funny, because they have no agenda in what they do. It's just innocent. It's funny. So this is one of those examples where something is innocent because the person who's posting it isn't their thing. Their dad's made something, thought it was funny, and sent it to them. And then you've got all that classic, oh, dad made a meme and stuff. And yeah, it's gone massive. But yeah, people then get really suspicious. When something goes viral, it's really fun at first, but after about a day, people get it pushed onto them and they take such offense at it that they're like, why am I seeing this? Oh, I've seen this joke before. Oh, and they get really angry. And I just think this is the perfect example of one of those things that's just, we should have never talked about it this much. It should be, you see it, you laugh, you share it, you maybe send it to a few friends who you know like Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Great. But as soon as something goes big, it becomes something else. It becomes a little monster for about a week.
How do you feel about things that go big in terms of, I don't know, I mean, I've just showed the meme that Simon Evans used, so that's a great example. And the head turner one seems to have such an incredible shelf life. But if it's, And actually, there's quite a lot of it. Obviously, visual, visual memes are visual. But what about sort of mimetic language in the sense that if there's a construction like, okay, sex is good, but blah 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 blah. How do you feel? Because someone's always going to come late to the party on that. That's inevitable.
Yeah, but that's kind of the thing, isn't it? It's everything has a very fast shelf life on the internet, and that in itself is fascinating because once you've got a format to something, then people love it at first. But as soon as people start seeing that, they hate it. It's why the internet changes constantly how they present stuff. Like, because as soon as something feels old, that reflects on you. So the way, if you're sharing something that people are like, oh, that's so 2019. It's not that long ago, but you get what they mean. I find that really fascinating. Like the latest one would be probably not the latest one, but the latest one that jumps to mind is the Anakin and Natalie Portman meme, which is Anakin looking at Thingy, says a statement, but you're not really going to do that statement. Back to Anakin, you're not. Yeah, that. Yeah. That's how did someone first do that? Where's the first one? And then how did people take that formula? That's fascinating. Like you say, when a meme like the jealous boyfriend or I can't remember what they call that one, but the guy looking back over his shoulder.
Yeah, head turner, I call it. But
yeah, everyone knows that meme now.
Yeah.
But how did that become a format? Because they do. If you Google it now, people have meme templates.
Oh yeah.
You take a popular meme and you put your own version of it.
Totally.
Like again, how does that become a thing? It's mad. It's brilliant, but it's absolutely mad. Again, as soon as people get familiar and comfortable with something, they love it and they share it to the nth degree, and then it.
There were some moments, I suppose. Essentially, you can't go. There are some moments that a meme seems to have sort of been born for. So the Bob Mortimer reading "Would I Lie to You"?
Yeah.
I mean,
But again, it's perfect. And it's just it's the perfect vessel for certain feelings, which is again because I love image and I love video, so I love that by putting that under a statement, you instantly understand what that statement is. That's long after this culture's evolved and mutated and become something else. People will study social media and the first sort of generation of social media, and it'll just be a wild west because it's already settling into something that it wasn't 10 years ago. It's already becoming something else in the same way all media does, in the same way TV did, in the same way print did, and stuff like that. But right now we're living through something that it feels so revolutionary in some ways, but already so done in other ways. And I think that's where meme culture is. We're in phase 2 or 3 of whatever this becomes. And it's just fascinating. That went a bit too deep for.
It's
no one. I hear myself sometimes. I'm like, you're talking about memes. No one should think this much.
A lesson for the day: in the midst of life, we are in death on social media.
But it's fascinating, isn't it? In the same way when the newspaper was sort of given to the mass and people would go to coffee houses or pubs to discuss the news, we now have that in sort of at the speed of sound.
in a rampant apocalyptic form, totally.
Yeah. But again, is that the thing? Because we kids won't think like this because it'll be nature to them. They won't think the way we do with this level of cynicism. They already Generation Z, certainly Generation Alpha even more so. They're already understand the internet better than we ever will. They already know sort of what they should and shouldn't post. It's already become part of their sort of the way their social interaction is and stuff, and an extension of the personality in a way we'll never think about because we are suspicious of it because it's not something we had when we grew up. So we see it as apocalyptic, but in fact, they'll never view that. That opinion will die with our generation.
I suppose so, because the speed of information is unlikely, unless there's a great environmental reason for it. The speed of information is unlikely to ever slow down. So I'm sort of thinking that you've got one generation of like, if you could have one generation that's like, well, every day was chaos, mum and dad. Where's the chaos? Don't understand where the chaos. We're all certainly people my generation thinking exact opposite, but
there isn't, and like it's interesting the thing you say about like unless there's a reason for it to stop. There's already a lot of sci-fi that crosses this idea. So humanity is addicted to the internet. There's absolutely no denying that, and social media is one of the tools that has sort of perpetuated that addiction. Like it's tapped into something that we get in community and stuff like that. So it is fascinating because we don't know, like we feel it's something permanent, but in actual fact it's not. Like you can dive into that sort of deep dive of the post-truth era and stuff like that. But the interesting thing about the internet is it's so not permanent, even though we say that's there forever. Someone cuts off the internet. There's loads of things in sci-fi where people, you'd have like an instant panic, but what would happen after that? Like, what would happen when you cut off this tool? Like, when people now want information, they don't have to think about it. It's just there. When you want to get in touch with someone, it's just there. Like, that sort of convenience is of an uncharted level. But servers are one of the biggest contributors to carbon footprints. So the running of the internet is huge. So like, what if it comes to a point where, climate and stuff takes over? That'd be one of the first things that shuts down and stuff. And then you have to sort of think about it in that way. We put so much onto the internet, we don't actually have as much things that are permanent. So I remember Edgar Wright talked about this. This is about 5 years ago. He was talking about how he still likes to buy DVDs and Blu-rays. And someone was like, well, you just get the digital version. He said, the problem is if someone changes, if you're selling something on streaming and say someone does a new edition of a film, that becomes the go-to edition. And unless someone puts it online somewhere, you don't have it. But with a physical copy, you've always got something in a state of permanence that exists there. Whereas with the internet, we are post-truth, and you can edit things, you can take things down, and you can change the meaning of things. And that in itself is fascinating. Like, we talk about Twitter as this sort of sphere for public opinion, but people will delete those tweets that were dominant. You see it all the time. Like, something that is so good at changing sort of attitude and societal view that leads into confirmation bias when something's happening. It's so sort of semi-permanent and fallible that this, again, it's gone too deep, but it's just a fascinating thing that until we're about 30 years from now, we won't understand the impact of it. Like, I always talk about this. I don't think I've ever said this on a podcast, but I'm fascinated with when the train came out, the steam train, people started complaining they had a physical neck problems because they thought the landscape was moving so fast that they were turning their head back and forth to watch it. And they basically came up with this idea that they had a sort of repetitive strain injury that's caused from the speed of the train. Physicians proved this wasn't a thing, and then loads of people had this sort of thing where they said their brain was damaged because of the speed of the train, and they sort of treated it as what is now being mental, illness. Like, and there's tons of cases of this, but it only exists for one generation. After everyone got used to the train, no one thought about it. Like, no one gets on a train now and goes, oh my God, this is too fast, I can't keep up with it. And the same thing, if the internet carries on, will happen. Whereas all these worries we have and all these things we discuss and all this sort of stuff that we're still learning will just level. And then something else will come along, and that'll be the big sort of thing that everyone's fearful of. And no one will think of the internet in the terms we do, in the same way we don't think of TV as the sort of idiot box that our grandparents saw and stuff like that. It's just like evolution, like social evolution. Hey, that was too much.
That was good. That was good. I mean, I was gonna. There were a couple of things I were gonna chip in, but to be honest, that was perfectly formed, and I don't really want to. I don't know. Add to
it felt dirty.
Oh, come on! It's like being bashful when I'm reading out your biography.
Yeah,
No, go on.
You just hear yourself sometimes. You're like, I know I believe and I mean this, but oh, I'm sure someone else could say it better. James Felton had that. That would have been beautiful if he did it.
Well, let's end on a obviously you are a film lover, so
Oh yeah,
you picked out this Netflix tweet.
yeah,
Now, and again, I assume because it's a trailer, I'm probably allowed to play it. But
yeah. You should be fine.
what's going on here? There's probably music on it though, isn't there?
There is, but you should like. I don't
I
know
might
how
be
that
okay. We
works.
played a Eurovision entry a few. Susie
Yeah.
Bennett picked a Eurovision entry a few editions ago, and I was only banned in Iraq and North Korea for that, so we might be all right.
Just keep it plain. Basically, what's happening for people on the podcast is the Cowboy Bebop opening credit sequence is playing that they released at the Tudum event for Netflix, and it is beautiful. I'm an absolute lover of Cowboy Bebop. My friend got me into it at uni because he knew I loved anime, and I'd never seen Cowboy Bebop. I'd seen the film, but I'd not seen the series. I just wasn't aware it was a series. Completely somehow missed me. And I used to stay up late watching anime on Channel 4 because there's nowhere to see it other than buying it on video or renting it. And I have loved Cowboy Bebop for so long. And when they announced this, there's obviously that modern thing of going, oh, is this going to be awful? And then they released the sequence today, and they've done a live action version of the original sequence, which is someone who recreates sequences through stock.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of, and it just looks beautiful. And I'm just really excited about it, and I hope it's great. And also, I'm quite fascinated that Netflix have now gone into this sort of modern sort of cult of Apple style of we have a big event and we showcase all our things. Like you said, I love culture, I love pop culture. I eat and breathe TV and film.
So you
like,
include right. So that's interesting. I'm glad that you said that because you've obviously included TV. I wondered if you were like a kind of like, oh no, film is
Since things like Buffy and The Sopranos, I studied media at uni because when you have my brain, all you can do is think about film and TV. You don't have many practical uses for your brain. But since about so the late 90s, early noughties, TV changed, especially like HBO changed TV. And I mean, it's always been going that way. But it's when it started to get cinematic and when it started to sort of change the language of filmmaking as well, it was always going to be this. Like the fact that you don't have to end a story in 2 hours sometimes is the best thing for a story, it's sometimes the worst thing. But like, say what you will, it's always been a big industry, but filmmaking's got cheaper since the digital era, since like people started filming on mini DVs and stuff like that. Since like the first one that I always think of is 28 Days Later, which blew my mind because it was digital. Collateral, another one that was digital. Like I used to think that looked so good, and now it looks so dated. But as soon as digital filmmaking came in, like it changed how everything's made, and now everything can be as cinematic as it is. And like our generation, who grew up on TV and film, who like understand the language, like completely, who are like grew up with The Simpsons, which was reference culture, like generation one. Like it was always going to go this way, and I think I for all the sort of stuff that goes out that's sort of middling because you have to keep up this sort of wave of content. Some things are just they're better than any film I've ever seen, like and consistently for.
What would you pick out,
hours.
just out of interest? So let's say on the film side, and then I just mentioned TV a bit. But
I mean, like, well, this is the thing because, like, you then have that debate about Netflix. They don't do films well, which is an interesting thing to say. They've got such a budget for TV, but yet when they do films, they don't have the budget of a film, so it's not as good. Marvel's a great example. Like, I love the Marvel TV shows, especially WandaVision and What If. But you can instantly sense, even though they've got Disney money and they probably spend more on it, there's something about the efficiency of filmmaking you lose in that sort of environment. So again, it depends on who's executing it. You look at, let's say, all the series of Game of Thrones except the last, because I don't want to get in that debate. But that is something that's like perpetually moving forward. That has to be a mini movie every episode. Like that's crazy. Like some of the images in that are better than sort of films you watched 15 years ago. Like the cinematography on some of those episodes is mind blowing.
Yeah.
Like it's just beautiful. And again, like as someone who loves film and TV, we've hit like a very slick era. So like I think if you look at the 70s when you had all sort of that wave of indie filmmaking and you had all the sort of exploitation and sort of B movies that came out of that was sort of grittier than the wave that you got in the 50s after the Hollywood system ended, like that were quite sort of, you got films like The Warriors coming out and stuff, which is got all that sort of social undertone stuff, and you got people just going out with cameras and shooting stuff. That's gone. It evolves again in the 90s when you've got sort of that era of Miramax and sort of people like, you know, Tarantino coming up, who again making things like Reservoir Dogs and sort of Pulp Fiction, which are very small indie films, which are just driven by character and plot. And the filmmaking's good, but the equipment they use is cheaper than they would if they were top of their game, so they have to get efficient with it. But you can tell it's an indie film by the way it's shot. Nowadays, anyone can hire like an Alexa camera, go out and shoot something, and if you've got the right eye on it, it looks more beautiful than anything of that indie era. So the people who are top of their game, that's why you've got these slick masterpieces. Like you've got action films, like Marvel's always the go-to example. I grew up loving comics just aside of me, shelves of them. So I love like those things. A lot of people hate Marvel because they changed the action genre. It became this thing where action films is now what's the new comic book film. It's not like what's the new Arnie film or what's the new Stallone film or whatever. It's now Marvel. And the thing is, they got so efficient with it. Like, it's a different game. They animate the action sequences before they've even shot them. So essentially, they know what their sequence is going to look like before they put a camera on it. So they know they've got to sort of keep this continuity to like this 10-year project. And I find that mind-blowing. And because they're so good at it and because it looks so good, everyone has to up their game as well. Like, if you want to be held to that regard. No one looks at a Marvel film and goes, this is a beautiful film, but it is. Like if you look at like Ragnarok, you can hear Taika Waititi's voice coming through it, and sometimes you just get a shot that's so like thought through. Like there's a shot of can't think what character's called, but the Valkyrie jumping into battle, and it's just like a Renaissance painting, and no one thinks of stuff in this way, but everyone is getting that good. Everyone is like doing that. Which means on the other end of it, you've got indie filmmaking where people can go out with, you know, DSLRs and they can make these interesting stuff. And they might have the scope to do cinematography and sort of the budget to have all those extras, but they can still light it well and it still look beautiful. And I find that just great. I think like, you know, you've got something in your pocket, you've got a camera in your pocket that's better than what people were using 15 years ago. And I love that because people now consume TV and because they're so fluid in the language of it, I love what that's probably going to do. I mean, we're going to be, as we already are, completely oversaturated. It's going to be hard to find those people push through. And I know all this was off the back of a Cowboy Bebop trailer, but I do think it's indicative of something, which is you could talk about the corporate machine and all that and how it is squashing indie voices and how it's harder for people to come through. But at the same time, like, amazing. Like if someone has a short film, I know people who have had a short film and it's found a life online, and off the back of it they've got, you know, option for features and stuff that didn't exist 15 years ago. Like again, a tweet can do well and people can then get a career off the back of consistently doing what they're good at, whereas before they would have had to prove themselves to a handful of people who are tastemakers for an entire industry. Like And that again, if you look at things like TikTok and stuff, you're cutting out all those middlemen and all those people who like decide things. Whereas, you know, like for a lot of comedians now, like a lot of us are deciding is it still worth us traipsing out to, you know, try and make 30 to 50 people laugh when you can put that time into making something online and potentially thousands, you know, sometimes millions for some people see it.
Yeah.
Again, too deep for a Cowboy Bebop.
We've got a lot of value. We've got value for money on that one. I have to say.
But
I mean, yeah.
I you know, I do love film and TV, and I hear my I've become one of those middle-aged men, and I feel like that's where I'm going. Who's like, and the thing about this, but I love it.
I think you'll find. I think you'll find. I could listen. Yeah, I thought Martin would be enjoying this. Regular viewer of the show, Martin could listen to another hour of this. Fair enough, Martin. Also mentions the trailer for Foundation on Apple TV. Looks.
I've not watched it yet. You've just reminded me. I saw it was out, but I've not watched it yet. Yeah.
There you go. I would just. So let me just quickly ask. We're going to wrap up the show, but let me just quickly ask. So look, The Saints of Newark. It's the Sopranos prequel movie.
Yeah.
I have sort of very much slipped into. I exist in TV from about 2005 to 2015. That's it. Now I'm defined by that. But or actually no, I have to make allowance. What am I saying? 90. There's loads of 90s TV.
Yeah, there's loads of stuff. Yeah.
But what is it? Was it right? Is it right that the prequel is a film and not a series? Does it matter?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's something that probably doesn't need to exist, but there's a market for it, and you know. There's always culture always runs in 20-year cycles, I think, and that's generally because what people grew up with in their teens and their 20s, by the time they get to a point where they're making stuff for other people in their teens and their 20s, they have a sort of attachment to the nostalgia, and so they can make these stories about things they love, and there's still a market for that out there. So that's always going to exist, and that's a massive debate at the moment. Like, you know, there's so many interesting ideas out there, completely contradicting what I said minutes ago. But there's so many big, brilliant ideas out there that will never get picked up because people will always chase the money. So they will go for those sort of Marvel films, and they'll go for those nostalgia cash-ins. And that is a different thing. But I think at the end of the day, if the story's good and the character's good, what does it matter? Like, something's going to be great or awful. I don't think something like that needs to exist. I think we could have happily, you know, never had this. But at the same time, I've said the same thing about Better Call Saul when I saw that was getting released, and that turned out to be an absolute banger of a TV show. Yeah. Like, you just don't know. Like,
yeah, no, totally. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of making me think of they did a Battlestar prequel, even though it didn't go. I mean, that was looking pretty promising to me, and they cancelled it. But anyway, we could be here. Obviously, Martin reminded me that I've got to reference the Jeremy Vine show because I do mention that on every podcast because I'm addicted to that. That's where I get my my fix of topical shenanigans. But I can't explain why. Just loyalties, isn't it? Old loyalties die hard. When we were talking earlier as well, something that came across my mind when we were talking about technology and the future and how things are. Rob Newman's No Planet B was a show of his from, I don't know, 2015 was it, when it was essentially time goes forward, but inventions go backwards because of environmental imperatives. So they plug up the oil and all the rest of it. And it's a fascinating thing, and I came to it with no sort of particular political preconceptions, but it did seem, I thought this did seem highly plausible. We're going to have to sort of go rather backwards, but anyway.
But we don't know that, like, human ingenuity is we don't know how the limit of that. Like, if we have a problem, there are solutions. Like, the things that function our society come from, we had resources and we figured out a way of doing them. There's a million things we've not figured out yet. I'm quite optimistic in that way.
I think you just defined yourself as an optimist there,
yeah. For all the sort of, because I am very like the apocalypse is coming type person, but the apocalypse has always been coming.
Yeah.
Like, every generation's had an apocalypse, and you know there will be one. Like, climate is terrifying. It does keep you up at night sometimes, but at the same time, like, human endeavor is very sort of, I can't think of the word, but it's so likely that we'll find solutions to things, and there are things that we won't find solutions to things, but we are sort of we're always evolving in what we do, and I think that's an opportunity. One of the things I made sure I did at the beginning of the pandemic, when it got really bleak, was finding the good news. Like, so there's certain places where they'll just go, here are the best things that humanity's done this week, and you'll find out all these things that, you know, these
They
massive
do that on
steps
GB News,
forward.
Matt. No, it's good. It's very. Listen, I mean, doing this show, I've very much got to the point now where, look, some things are really hard to ignore in topical stories, but actually, you know, it needs to be more of a sideways approach. We're not beholden to have to cover every tragic news story, and boy, there's a lot of those sort of vying.
But yeah, there's always going to be tragic news stories, and there's always going to be very serious things that we do have to fix. Like, we can't assume that other people will fix things. Like, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, like, we do come together. We forget that sometimes, like, because the world does feel very polarized at the moment. I think that is a byproduct of things like social media. Like, you now don't have to meet people in the middle because you get confirmation bias everywhere you look for it. Like, you know, you've seen both left and right wing calling left and right wing people, you know, Nazis, and this is how fashion, and everyone's right. Everyone's right because they can find something to support what they believe. But the truth is, like, I hate human beings en masse, but I really believe in them. Like, and I do think that underneath it all, like, there's a lot of good in humanity. For all the awful stuff out there, you know, Kurt Vonnegut said it best. Humanity's put here to fuck about, and don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. I think that's our default. I think we're playful, we're good people, but life is crushing, and life is sort of brings about so much horror with it that, you know, you do find the light through it. It's, oh God, I can hear myself. But again, that's the internet. Like, you could spend your life on Twitter, which what we specifically talk about. You could spend your life on Twitter and every day it'd be the end of the world. But you could also cater your feed, and every day it can be the most wonderful, like, life-changing thing. Like, everything exists. The human experience isn't, it's always going to be good, it's always going to be bad. It is what it is. It's changing.
It does slightly remind me of the saying, live every day as if it's your last, one day you'll be right. But yeah. Where can people see, hear you, watch you? What are your future projects? Plug away.
I mean, Twitter's where I always, the first place all my videos go up. As I say, that's if they're ever going to get momentum, that's where they go. Slowly working on live stuff again and things like that. But yeah, Twitter, just keep an eye on that. Eventually, everyone will leave it, and I'll have no platform. So I'm making hay whilst it's there.
Absolutely. Matt, that was amazing. I mean, you know, it's a fantastic effort and thought into all those answers, and you know, we could have gone in so many different directions. You know, again, I think maybe also illustrates the beauty of Twitter as a talking point, which is, again, the whole point of the show is to use it as a talking point rather than and actually not just you know, it's a sort of like as you say, the confirmation bias and all the other shortcuts that Twitter sort of encourages.
Yeah, we should not
really
skim over that pun that just dropped in, because that was good. Carpe DMs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Carpe DMs, lovely. Yeah, fantastic stuff. Well done, Martin.
Yeah.
So, right. Sorry, was there any? Did you want to?
No. Just keep an eye on Twitter. Speaking of shows and content, this will completely date stamp it. I know my wife is waiting downstairs to start the final of Vigil, and if I am quick tonight, I will put a video out for that, but I don't think I have time.
Okay. Cool.
So I am gonna happy to wrap up with you now.
No worries.
It's been very fun.
Oh, brilliant! I'm really glad you've enjoyed it. I feel like I've learned a lot, actually. I've certainly been reminded of a lot as well.
Oh, I talk a lot of shit. Don't worry.
Well, like, guys, thanks. So I'll just wrap it up for our streamers who've been watching. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the extra bonus time that we gave you. Thanks to Martin, of course. And we will see you. I'm going to take a week's break next week, and hopefully we will see you back again on October the 10th with Sid Singh. I shall be checking that with Sid anon. But I will obviously post that on Twitter along with clips from the tonight's show. There'll be a podcast version as well, which I'll get sorted, and I'll ping round the link for that. And I think that's it in terms of, obviously, please follow us on Twitter. LKT Zoom. And Matt, thanks again once
Thanks
more.
for having me.
And
Thanks for having me.
See you streamers. See you later. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Cool. Right, I've stopped.